All right, here we go. Glory to God. Welcome into the channel. This is Lifted Noise. My name's Raul. If you've never been in here, I've been doing a lot of SP Mark II content. So if you're interested in that, please subscribe to the channel. And if you find some value in this video, this live stream, please give it a thumbs up. That's the best way you can support the channel. And any other monetary ways, you can check links in the description. So yeah, I wanted to just look at, and first of all, I did want to ask everybody kind of a question. If you could leave it in the comments or even in the chat window if you're here live. What are you using your SP for most of all? Are you doing sample-based beat making, or are you actually taking full advantage of chromatic mode, which we're talking about today, and making like original stuff? So that's what I want to look at today, is making simple, major, minor chords using the chromatic mode and scale mode. So I got a little, I got some notes kind of laid out, go through the process of this. Decided to just go live with it. I was going to make a video out of it, but yesterday I did share something on my Patreon and then on my community page. It's just a little chromatic mode number chart that just tells you what the numbers are in chromatic mode. So as long as you sample your notes, whatever it's from, if you're sampling your notes into the SP, sample them in C, because it maps everything to C, like middle C, right? So as long as you do that, this information will work for you. Now, if you do not know what the note is of your sample, or say, yeah, so if you don't know what the note of your sample is, I would recommend using something like this. Now, this is a Korg CA chromatic tuner. Let me pull it up right here on ZZOUNDS.com, $24.95. You can get one of these. Now, this is not just your basic, let me not say basic, but this is not a guitar tuner. What this is it gives you a wider range. So you want to have a wider range so you can detect sample notes of even bass tones and things that are even higher, right? So also, this is, say you do have, I got a couple of single notes here. This is like an organ, which is a C, and then this is a bass tone, which I know what it is. I didn't sample it myself, but I bought a pack, and in the pack it's full of one-shots, but there are all kinds of different notes. So in that case, what you could do is, if you know what it is and it's written on the sample, it's like, this is a D. If I go into pitch, and it might be helpful for you to use this so you know. So just plug the outputs of your SP in there. But this is a D, so I know that to get to C, I need to pitch it back down. So D, D sharp, or D up to C sharp, then down to C. I'm not saying up, but down. So just two semitones. So if I look at my pitch here, let me switch this over. So if I'm looking at my pitch here, and this is a D note, I want to pitch it down to, and now I have a C note. But what you want to do is actually resample this. Okay, because if I go into chromatic mode, it's actually recognizing the original tone and not where I pitched it at. So now I have a D note. I'm gonna get rid of this one because this is now my C. Copy it here just to stay organized. All right, so I want to look at some other things. But first of all, we want to look at, I want to look at chromatics, the chromatic mode. So if we're looking at chromatic mode, I have a C note here going in, shift plus pad 4, chromatic mode. So if you look at the numbers here, 0 is, and it might be a little confusing because you got pad numbers and you got numbers up here. So these you can change. So you could turn this knob all the way to the right and you get -12 at the bottom, or you can have it all the way to the left and have 0. So these are both 0 and -12 are both going to represent C. As long, like I said, as long as you've sampled your note in C. Yeah, so same note, because we got 2 octaves in the SP, 2 octaves worth of notes that you could play if you're playing on a keyboard. So looking at it that way, we have like a center where to start from. I do have, so I'm going to look at the chart here in a second that I've created. Let's take a look at it right now. So if I go over here and look at this chart, we can easily reference this when we're messing with chromatic mode and trying to build some chords, some scales. So I'm going to go through the process here. So at the moment, this will be my C. Now, if you want to move into different scales, what you're going to do is push enter on this button here, and then you'll see that I've moved into a major scale. I have minor scales, and then I have Dorian and Phrygian. So I'm just going to look at major and minors. What I know of, as far as my knowledge goes, it's a bit limited, but I'm just showing you what I do know, and to help you guys build some chords from here. So now, if I want to change the scale, I can go like this, holding the roll button and turning the push enter knob. All right. So I do want to show you what makes a major and a minor scale. So if I go over here, I've got some resources. So major scale pattern, there's a certain pattern. So you get whole, whole, half, whole, 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 half. These are what these letters represent. W represents whole, half represents half, and these are whole and half steps. So it's the distance between the notes on the keyboard, say if you were playing them on a keyboard. And you have a slightly different pattern for minor scales. So you got whole, half, whole, whole, half, whole, whole. So you don't necessarily need to understand this because if we're looking at the SP, when you go into chromatic mode and you switch from major to minor, what it does is it eliminates the need to know the distance. Okay, so right here in regular in the scale mode chromatic, you have all the notes, just like if you were playing on a keyboard. But if you click it and go into major, you see now only some of the pads are illuminated. So this would be your scale pattern. So this is a major scale pattern. So just like we were looking at before, whole, whole, half, whole, 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 half. So whole, whole, half, whole, 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 half, and then you're back to the beginning note, C. So this makes it really easy to build some chords, because if we know how to build a chord, we can just use these numbers and then start just doing some basic counting, right? So when you're building a triad chord, you're using the first, the third, and the fifth note within the scale. So all you got to do, and this is why I say you should turn your knob so you have C at the bottom, so you can start building chords this way. And we're just going to keep it basic. I don't want to get into like inversions or any of that. Just want to count from pad 13, so bottom left, to keep it simple, as your 1. As long as negative 12 there, that's your 1. So I'm in the key of C, and this is a major scale. So I'll just count. So this is going to be the first note in my chord, 1. And then I'm going to count 2. I'm skipping that because it's the third that goes into this chord. And then 4, and then 5. So 1, 3, 5. And that's a chord right there. So that's, I guess, a 1 chord in the key of C, major. Now, if I want to switch over to minor. I prefer minor tones, usually harmonies. So I'll move over to that. So now what I do want to do is I want to change the key. So if I want to do that, right, like I said earlier, hold roll and then go over. I'm going to go into the key of D, right? And then also looking back at the chart that I made, and there'll be downloads for the chart in my in the description of this live stream. So I move over to D. So if I look at this here, D is negative 10. It's also 2. But I want to also change that so it reflects on chromatic mode in the SP. So in chromatic mode on the SP right now, like I said, to keep it simple, wanted to turn all the way till -12 is at the bottom. So the key that I'm in is at the bottom. So it's easy to start counting and building chords. So in order to do this, like when you turn these knobs right here and it switches the octaves, it just jumps. It jumps. But if you want to do a finer tuning, you can hold shift and turn it. So what I'm going to do is hold shift and turn it 2 notches until I got a -10 on pad 13. So now that's my root note for in the key of D, and now I can start counting again like I just did and build a 1 chord in the key of D using the chromatic mode and scale mode and a minor. So again, so 1, skip 2, 3, first 2 notes, 4, skip it, 5. Okay, just like that. So what I can do from here is just resample this. So I'm going to go here on bank pad and then make sure I'm in poly mode. And this is kind of finicky, right, man? This is kind of weird sometimes. Chromatic mode has its bugs, and I talked about this before. So I've done this a few times. It doesn't necessarily trigger them in poly mode. So I'm hoping, crossing my fingers, that it works. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There we go. And now I have a chord resampled. So if I want to continue to make some chords, go back into chromatic mode. And now if you look into like the number scale, you learn about like chord progressions, and just using like a really popular one, 1-4-5. If I want to build more chords and do like a 1-4-5, I can do this. So I'll just count. So I've already done my 1 chord. Now I can go 1, 2, 3, 4. Now I can build my chord off of this using this as the root note for this 4 chord. So 1, skip 2, 3, and then 4, 5. So then I can resample that. Make sure I'm in poly mode again. I just cycle through these every time because I don't want it to mess up. So now I have 1, 4. So I've got 1 chord, a 4 chord in the key of D. I want to keep building. Go back into chromatic mode and then count again. 1, 2, 3, 4, and now 5. So this will be a root note for my 5 chord. And then count from there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then go and do a resample. Again, poly mode. So there we go. Now we have 3 chords, and we can build like that. But another way that you can do this is you could just do your 1 chord, you know, go back into chromatic mode, and I'm going to go back to C. And you could just mess around in here. If you don't mind pitching your chord up and down, you have that option where you could just go back into chromatic mode with the single chord and then start messing around with some ideas. May not sound as good, but it's just something to mess with. And yeah, there you go. That's just a simple way to build your chords, and I think that's just about all I got as far as building simple triad chords in major and minor scales. I'm gonna jump into the chat window here in a sec just to see what's going on with y'all. If we got anyone in the conversation. Hey, I acknowledge what's happening, bro. So yeah, this is about the information I got for you. If you guys want to turn to a little conversation as far as uh, you know, music type theory information, music type theory stuff here in the SP. Let's talk about it. But I appreciate those of you who did come in and we're hanging out for the information. I was gonna shoot a video, but I decided, you know, I don't really feel like editing this video. So, but yeah, and also because I haven't really been on this like this. I was really excited for a time being, and I'm sure I'll get back to being excited about using chromatic mode and building like, let's say, composing, building original beats with the SP. I know there's much more powerful options for that. Um, but yeah, it's capable, so you can do this kind of thing in here. I've just been more on like the sample chopping tip for a minute right now, so this hasn't interested me as much. But I know I'm gonna get back to there, and I wanted to put this information out there, also because I made the chart for this, and then shared it on my timeline, shared it on my Patreon. It's actually been a minute since I shared anything on my Patreon, and yeah, and I know it's about due to put at least something out there. So hopefully it's helpful to you guys. I appreciate y'all coming in. I might just bounce out of here since there isn't much of a conversation. Um, Maybe I'll jump back in and do something else, but yeah, that's it. I appreciate y'all. God bless.